Okay, viewers, you're welcome to the show again. Today, I want to talk about something very interesting. We want to talk about a very common disease in Nigeria. Today, I want to talk about a disease called diabetes. Diabetes mellitus, precisely, because there's another type of diabetes called diabetes insipidus, which is a different type of diabetes entirely. Just that they share similar symptoms, which are increased thirst and frequent urination. That's why they are both called diabetes. So diabetes insipidus is a disease that affects the water balance of the body. So it leads to the body getting rid of water from the body. It's quite different from diabetes mellitus. So today we're going to talk about the disease called diabetes mellitus. Okay, so in this class, we're going to look at the meaning of diabetes mellitus as introduction to diabetes. We are going to look at symptoms of diabetes. We're going to look at what causes diabetes, and we're going to look at complications and management of diabetes. Are you ready? Okay, let's continue. So, what is diabetes? Diabetes is a condition whereby the sugar level of the blood is high. It's also known as hyperglycemia, when the sugar content of the blood is high. Okay, so diabetes occurs when the sugar content of the blood is high. By sugar here, I mean glucose. Okay, so I'm going to talk about glucose. I'm going to talk about the function of glucose. So what is glucose here? Okay, glucose here means the end product of carbohydrate. And so if I eat my rice, my yam, or my bread, which are examples of carbohydrate, my body will not absorb them in form of carbohydrate. It will have to be converted from carbohydrate to their end product, which is what? Glucose. And this conversion is made possible by the help of enzymes. What are enzymes? Enzymes are organic catalysts in the body that speed up the rate of chemical reaction but remain chemically unchanged at the end of the reaction. So if I eat my rice will not be absorbed into my body in form of rice. It will have to be converted from rice, that starch, to the end product, which is glucose. And this conversion is made possible by enzyme. It begins from the mouth. In the mouth, um, starch is converted to maltose. In the duodenum, starch is converted to glucose by an enzyme called amylase, and further conversion takes place in the small intestine. Okay, so glucose here means the end product of carbohydrate. It can also be referred to as what? As sugar. So diabetes occur when the glucose level of the blood is high. Okay, so that is that. Now, what is the function of this glucose in the body? Of course, we know that the function of carbohydrate is to generate energy. So what the glucose does to the body is to generate energy. So the glucose will be carried by the plasma of the blood to the various cells in the body for cellular respiration. And there are two processes involved in this. And they are the first one, which is glycolysis, and the second one, which is Krebs cycle. So the main purpose or the main function of the glucose in the body is to generate energy by the cells. Okay, now we know what the glucose is and its function in the body. Now the next question is, what actually causes diabetes? What is the mechanism to diabetes? How does diabetes occur? Now, one of the most important questions we ask in science is how, because how tells you the mechanism, how tells you the procedure. So the more of the question how you ask, the more you try to seek answers to the question how you ask, the more knowledgeable you become. So how does diabetes occur? There are three organs that are involved in diabetes. These organs are the brain, the pancreas, and the liver, which I am holding here. So we have the brain, the pancreas, and the liver. These three organs are heavily involved in regulation of blood sugar in the body. Now the brain. What is the function of the brain? It is the brain that detects if the sugar level of the blood is high or low. So the carotid arteries take blood to the brain. And so the brain detects if the sugar content of the blood is high or low. But then the brain does not have the power um, to take out some of this sugar or to store it somewhere. There's an organ that has the power or the ability to deal with this high sugar level in the blood. And the organ is the liver here. So it is the liver that has the power to actually adjust the sugar level of the blood. But guess what? The liver cannot easily tell if the sugar content of the blood is high or low. So it needs to be given information by the brain. But then you agree with me that there is a gap between the brain and the liver. So the question now is, how does the brain relay information or message to the liver? Now the brain has what we call chemical messengers. And what are these chemical messengers? Hormones. So hormones are chemical messengers. What are hormones? Hormones are chemical substances that are produced by endocrine gland, transported by the plasma of the blood, and stimulate the target organs, meaning that these target organs may remain inactive or dormant until this hormone comes to tell them what to do. So there is a hormone called insulin. What is the function of the insulin? Now, the insulin is a hormone that actually stimulates the liver and allow it to carry out its function, meaning that if the insulin doesn't go to the liver will not be able to carry out its function. So what organ produces the insulin? It is the pancreas. So the pancreas produces the insulin goes to the liver and tell the liver what to do. Now, what does the liver really do when the insulin gets there? What would the liver do? How would the liver try to manage this situation? How does the liver remove excess sugar from the blood? The liver will store the excess sugar as animal fat, that's glycogen. Okay, so what does the insulin do? The insulin enables the liver to store excess glucose as glycogen. Okay, but then when the sugar content of the blood becomes normal, then that glycogen will have to be reconverted to what? To glucose, but with the help of another hormone called glucagon, which is also produced by what? By the insulin. So the main role of the insulin, or the main function of the insulin, is to tell the liver, is to stimulate the liver to store excess glucose as glycogen. Now, the inability of the liver to store excess glucose as glycogen leads to a disease called diabetes mellitus. But the inability of the liver to reconvert the glycogen to glucose may lead to a disease called hepatitis. Okay, now we have known what causes diabetes. Diabetes occurs when the liver is unable to store excess glucose as glycogen. Okay, so this may be as a result of the pancreas not producing enough insulin or not producing insulin at all. Okay, now